What's going on, wiffle ball fans around the world? I am AuSSy, and this is Corey Zeh. What's the name of the show again?
Pitch Please.
The Pitch Please podcast. We are in our third season. It starts right now, and opening day is tomorrow.
Finally.
You know how many hours exactly?
15-ish?
15-ish hours at the time of this recording, of course.
Yeah.
And
this is the latest we've started in quite some time.
We've got a action-packed weekend, and somewhere Janine Hess is crying for how many people are going to be at her household this weekend. I really do feel bad for her.
Yeah, me too, but not because of that.
Anyways, let's start with the matchup tomorrow. First thing, 12:30 Eastern. It's the Public Enemies versus All-American Wiffle, the guys from Pennsylvania. What's exciting you about that matchup?
Well, All-American actually plays four games tomorrow. They start with Chris Hess, fitting. What excites me about that matchup is what I can learn from it, and what I want to know about All-American is who they're going to throw the first game, because the thing I'm most interested in with them is what they do with their rotation, how they handle it. Do they try to go for splits in certain series? Tomorrow's series would be one of them. Mm-hmm. that I think you could do that. Or do they try to go for the sweep? Does pride get in the way, or do they just not care? I want to see what their lineup is like. I want to see who exactly is their short mid-mounder. I don't know if it's going to be Bellis. We don't know if it's going to be Sexual Barry. We don't know if it's going to be
Bisexual
Bobby
Barry.
Loftus. I don't know. What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to a lot of the same things you are as well. But, like you said, I think the thing I'm looking forward to most is to see how they operate their team. So what are they going to do with their rotation? There's been a lot of talk. I know you mentioned something about maybe not throwing Artem against Hess. Will they do something like that and try to go for the split?
Right.
Or will they go right at the enemies, which is what I'm expecting, knowing Artem. I think he wants to go for the top dog, which is Hess. And it's been talked about a lot with the way that the guys that are on All-American, they were the Screaming Eagles in fall ball. The way they came in and played so well in fall ball, of course, maybe they didn't meet their expectations, but I think they surprised a lot of people within the league that didn't really know this team. You know, obviously you and I and the guys from Nationals knew, but
yeah,
not many other people knew who these guys were. So it's going to be interesting to see the next wave of players that only play in the regular season.
Right, kind of just rediscover
these guys and say, wow, I think they're going to definitely pose a legitimate threat. They can definitely hold their own. The other interesting thing, we heard Artem say he's not going to go with a 7-8 man lineup like they did in fall ball.
Right.
What is it going to be? How do they go split squad?
How many people do they bring?
Yeah. If they bring 8 guys, do they have 4 in the first series, 4 in the next? I don't know that they can afford to do that.
Right.
But
or do they just play their best players
and the other guys are just there for the ride? I don't know about
maybe
that.
They play one game. I don't know. And I want to say that it's not that I don't think they can sweep you guys tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can put up runs off of Hess, because I think that offense is dangerous potentially. I mean, they beat Butcham, so I really don't want to hear about them not being able to put up runs.
And this field, the new field, it's worth noting, is much roomier. And I'm not afraid to say that the Public Enemies don't have the best defense. Obviously, the strong suit of our team is pitching and offense. So
allegedly,
it'll be interesting to see what happens if they can put some balls in some gaps. Obviously, nowhere near the 2-time Gold Glover AuSSy.
Right.
But it remains to be seen. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, as is the second matchup that they're in, which is your team, Wake and Rake, versus All-American Wiffle. And a lot of what you guys are going to plan on doing kind of is dependent on what happens in the first series with the Public Enemies.
Yes, somewhat, in terms of lining up our rotation. We know what we want to do, and obviously who is eligible, which game for them, you're right, will depend on what they do in the first series. I threw that poll up on Facebook a couple weeks ago about which series people were most looking forward to, and this is the one that won. I don't know how legit that voting is, but still, I voted for it because I think it's super interesting, because both teams have so much that the league hasn't figured out yet, and that each team, especially Wake and Rake, may not have figured out yet we haven't played with our full squad at all. 0 innings. Steve Bennett just got back from college a few days ago. So we're going to learn a lot about ourselves. And obviously, in terms of the larger picture, in a 20-game season, these 2 games are just big because these 2 teams, Wake and Rake and All-American, likely fighting for a wild card spot, perhaps. Or obviously, if Wake and Rake has ideas of winning the division, and same for All-American, that they're going to have to do well on opening day. You know, for All-American, I don't think going 0-4 is a death sentence, but it is close. It's close, you know, because then you're thinking like, okay, probably got to finish like 10-6, and you still have series against Balco and Smash Bros. And
immediately
Balco again.
Immediately, somebody watching might say, "Oh, 0-4 is not nearly as big of a deal as you might think," because there have been teams that have started really slow and come back to do really well as long as you can make
the Braves last year.
But the problem is, this year is different than most other years. The parity in the league is unparalleled. So I think you get off to a slow start.
The margin for error is very thin for
You're going to be depending on other teams to help you out.
You're going to need help. You're not going to be able to in control of your own destiny.
So if I had to ask you right now, put you on the hot seat, what All-American Wiffle's record on opening day is going to be, what would you say?
I mean, gun to my head, 0-4.
0-4.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I think, because like I want to say 1-3, but then if you were to follow me up with another question and say which game do they win, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Right. It's tough.
I mean,
I think
I have confidence in my team.
I think they could come. They could very easily.
But if they go 3-1, I won't be
what I'm saying.
shocked.
That's what I'm saying. I could very easily see them going 3-1,
which would be incredible.
Or 0-4. You know what I mean? Right. I don't know that I can see them sweeping 4 games. It's just
Probably
too hard to win 4 games.
Yeah.
Anybody. Yeah. And again, it goes back to who they decide to play. But with that being said, let's talk about some of the other matchups going on opening day weekend. What's on tap on Sunday?
Sunday kicks off with kind of an interesting matchup for me, with Sultans of Swing, aka SOS, versus the Leftovers.
I voted for this
Did you?
matchup as my most interesting opening day matchup.
How come?
I don't know. Well, let's just say this. The poll was up there for a little while. Mm-hmm. I've since seen SOS play a little bit, and I don't know that I feel the same as I did when I cast my vote.
Right, gotcha.
SOS has been extremely impressive in the preseason. That's not to say that they've blown anybody away or done anything crazy, but they just look like they just look like a well-oiled machine. They look like a team that's ready to exceed expectations.
Especially offensively, right?
Of course, yeah. Dakota Jackson was hitting Brian Kelly. Hit Brian Kelly out a couple times in one game.
Hit Chris.
He hit Chris.
Giordano.
He was hitting Giordano. He's hitting everybody. The question is, can he carry that over into the regular season? Because I think a lot of their success depends on Dakota Jackson offensively and Mike Curtin on both sides of the ball. Can he pitch? Can he hit? We'll see. We haven't seen much of him in the preseason.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to pitch, but I definitely agree that he might be the linchpin of that offense. Like as he goes, the team goes type thing. And
if he's able to pitch, they might be a team that's on the bump.
Maybe.
And that could push them into the playoffs.
Right. We're going to play over-under later on team win totals. It'll be interesting to see where their number is and if you go over-under. For the Leftovers, right now we got Devin, we got Donnie, we got Dan, and Dan's bringing a friend, Zach Morris. Isn't that the name of the kid from Saved by the Bell?
I'm not sure. We're going to have to go to Chris on that one.
But,
he's the only one that has the whole collection on DVD.
He's currently sleeping.
Chris, our stats guy, of course. Kind of like a Tony Reale on PTI. But
the thing is, I'm not sure what I can learn from this matchup, but in terms of SOS, for me, this series is mostly about SOS because the Leftovers really all season just probably going to play spoiler.
But that's interesting in itself.
It is, because right off the bat, I think they can spoil SOS, because SOS has 4 games against them, and in my opinion, and I don't think this is really a bold statement, but I'll say if they lose one of those 4 games, they will not make the playoffs. So it's like a must-win right out of the gate, and they're going to be favored in both games. They should win both, but going 1-1 is going to be like going 0-4 for All-American.
I have to agree with you on that. I mean, I don't think that losing one is necessarily a death sentence, but
They have to
those
make up
games,
for it.
those games are must-win games.
Yes.
In a league where you're not one of the best teams, you have to beat the teams you're better than.
Right.
End of story.
Exactly.
The other matchup on Sunday,
Legend Killers, Matty B's team against the Drunken Pirates.
and this is going to be another really interesting series. This might end up being the most interesting series of the weekend.
It could be.
Because, number one, we haven't seen the Legend Killers at all preseason. Has Butcham been pitching?
He's been lifting, I know
He's
that.
been lifting. But has he been pitching? What's
Dan
his...
Bakke left the team.
Yep.
Alex DeMarco's no longer on the team, so they signed another guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
They have Gallagher.
Yeah. Oh well, that's really what everybody. George was like, I'm looking forward to Tad versus Matt Butcham. First of all,
has that ever happened? Yeah, it's happened before.
I don't think. But
even if it has, it hasn't happened on this type of stage, opening day.
Right.
It's going to be a big deal. New field and everything.
First of all, I don't know if that matchup is actually going to happen. I have no idea. No one knows if Tad's pitching or what. Like, just nobody knows. But I'd be more interested to see Gallagher against Conroy. I mean,
I'm interested to see if Conroy can continue where he left off last season.
I mean, he pitched well in the Slugfest, which is the only time that they've played. He had a rough first inning, but then he gathered himself nicely. I just think he's straight up solid. He's probably gonna give up runs, but he's not gonna give up a ton of runs. Mm-hmm. And that offense has got to show me something. I think their offense is probably the most important thing, honestly. Besides, maybe Tad's number of starts that Tad gets. But speaking of offense, Legend Killer is not known for it. So, what do they do against a Conroy? Can they put up 7-8 runs against him, or do they put up 1 or 2? And you're like, man, this team is going to struggle to put up runs the whole year, because that could really hold them back.
Absolutely.
They could end up with the best pitching, but have the worst offense.
And the other thing about the Pirates too is, in the past, they've been hurt by the small size of Hess Field. Guys like Jason Blonde, I feel like might benefit a great deal from the fact that the new Hess Field
bigger
is more of a pitcher friendly park.
Yeah.
He might be able to keep a few more balls in the park, which could help them big time.
I expect him to have a big year because he's a switch hitter and he can go lefty and short porch it, and he's just an amazing fielder, and he had a great slugfest. So that you're right, that could end up being the most interesting series of the weekend.
The final series of the weekend, Monday night wiffle ball.
Monday night wiffle.
It's the Balco Black Sox versus last year's champions, the Smash Brothers, formerly known as the Yankees. That is the team of the brothers Longo, the brothers Horrital, and now Adam Trigger. Mm-hmm. And they're going to go up against Jimmy Cole's team. Obviously, if you're watching this podcast from outside the Hessfield wiffle ball area, you probably know that name, Jimmy Cole. And the Balco Black Sox looked pretty good in preseason. Not so much necessarily in the slugfest, but they absolutely...
Well, their offenses look good.
They picked apart the Public Enemies.
They did.
In the play-in series
picked
there.
Apart Tim as well.
And I expect them to be a really solid team. But I'm not sure if they're ready to beat the Smash Bros. The problem is, yes, you have Jimmy Cole. Yes, you have other veterans like George, like Omar. The problem is can guys like Ron West and Mike Van Nostrand step up against a Josh Longo on the short mound? I think it's possible. The question is whether or not it's going to happen.
Yeah. Obviously, the whole thing with that offense is... can the guys besides Jimmy Cole prove to the rest of the league that they can hit, so you have to pitch to Jimmy Cole?
Right.
I mean, that's basically what it is.
And I expect a lot of teams this year to not pitch to Cole.
Yeah.
So that is going to be a big theme of the season is, can whoever's hitting behind him make the pitcher pay? Because if they can't, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what kind of lineup they have. If everybody's there, we don't know the status of the Valley, right?
Right.
Will he be there? And if he's there, is he going to pitch? Is Jimmy going to pitch? He's, claiming arm troubles, but
we've heard that a time or two.
He has. But he's still pretty effective from short or mid mound, so there's always that option.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I assume George is going to pitch one game. Now the question with them is the same like for All-American. Like, do they go for the split? Do they go straight up? Maybe that's dependent on whether or not LaValle's there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But it'd be a hell of a matchup. It'd be really, really interesting.
I think they have plenty of potential to actually sweep the series. I just don't think it's going to happen this early in the season. So I think what I'm saying is I think they can beat the Smash Bros 2 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to happen opening week.
I would agree. I think just getting one would be cool. I mean, it would go a long way because any win you can rack up against the Smash Bros is a good one. And Smash Bros, of course, last year started 18-0, so they're maybe trying to repeat a performance like that. Although I don't really know what their strategy is because no matter what, they're going to win that division, the Central Division. So we'll see. I mean, will Chris Orwell take the mound? How many games is he going to throw? I mean, will Jesse take the mound?
How many games does he need to throw? That's the question here.
Right.
In that division, they have.
You can certainly have Zach make starts.
And Josh has already said it. He plans on saving arms for the postseason.
Yeah, I would expect it.
It's going to definitely be something to watch for sure. With that being said, we talked a lot about the potential for certain teams to do certain things. Let's go into preseason predictions for the playoffs. If you had to guess today, based on what you've seen so far, and historical-wise, what teams do you think are making the cut and which teams are going to be left looking in?
Well, I do think that at the end of the day, it's possible, and I'll just say it will happen, that all 3 divisions are maybe not runaways. Smash Bros are going to run away with it, obviously, but I think Balco, and as much as I hate to say it, Public Enemies, will win their division by at least 3 games. So the last couple of weeks they will have it wrapped up. To me, that's kind of running away with it almost.
See, I'm not as sure about Balco. I'm not. It's not that I'm not sure about their team. I'm not sure. I guess about their division. I think that there is potential within that division for it to be a little bit closer than that.
Well, I would say there's more potential in the East, in my opinion.
I wouldn't disagree with that either.
I mean, everyone knows you guys looked awful in the preseason, but I don't know how much I really want to believe in that and point to it and say, like, you guys are awful. Look, I've said from the get-go that I don't think there's anything special about your offense, and so far I'm right. But overall, I don't think that you guys are. I really don't think that's a huge indication. You know, you guys struggling in the preseason. So, what are you laughing at?
That's not happy off to the side here.
Garbage off.
I'll say I still completely disagree with you on that. Offensive wise, I think we have the second best offense in the league. Still,
I would disagree.
Maybe not opening day. We're going to be without Alex Kelly, who's going to be a big part of our offense.
Yeah, what's your roster going to look like?
What's that?
For tomorrow.
For tomorrow? I can't release any details on that.
Well, you just released one detail.
I did release that Alex Kelly will not
Everyone
be there.
else knows that Roselle isn't going to
Jay
be
Roselle won't be there, but don't you worry.
Okay, well,
it could be the major league debut of Nick Ospelmeyer.
Joey Dewar gets traded or something. Maybe you never know.
Zach Artem might
Kyle
get traded.
Palumbo.
I don't know.
That'd be great pickup.
But really,
but to go back to the playoff things, I would pick those 3 to win. I would pick the Smash Bros, Balco, and you guys to win your division. Where the race really interesting is for the wild card. I mean,
well, let me just ask you this about the divisions. You say Smash Bros, Public Enemies, Balco. Out of those 3 teams, which team do you think is most likely to be upset?
Public Enemies.
Fair enough.
Some of that has to do with you having Matt Butcham in your division. Although, yeah, it's Public Enemies. I mean, you could definitely make a case for Balco because I'm not 100% sold on that team. I think they have some pretty big flaws, mainly defensively. But I would say Public Enemies.
I don't know. I think a lot of it's going to depend on some factors for, say, Tad O'Neal. I mean, if he comes back and is throwing flames, and Blonde and Conroy are a good mid-mound duo, that team has got a lot of potential.
Yeah, I would expect either All-American or the Pirates to push Balco. It's just whether or not they can hang with him. And that may come down to the 4 games that they play each other.
I mean, it might come down to attendance from LaValle and Jimmy's arm.
Sure.
So those are things to definitely look at. You were talking about the wild card, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think everybody is of the same opinion that the wild card will just be just this brawl between 5 or 6 teams for 2 spots, you know? It's just, the margin of error is so thin, you know? Like,
the wild card really is the most interesting race, in my opinion. Cause
most likely, I mean,
no matter what, no matter who wins the division, there's going to be a dogfight for the 2 wild card spots.
Right.
It does not matter if the Pirates end up winning their division, if the Legend Killers end up winning their division. Then it's going to be Public Enemies and Balco fighting with Wake and Rake,
right.
All-American, SOS, these other teams. So it's going to be a slobber knocker.
I mean, I do think it's interesting when 2 teams are fighting for the division and you're either going to get a 1, 2, or 3 seed or be in the 4-5, which is a big difference because 4-5 is playing each other in a 3-game series. So you either get that bye or you don't. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't see a scenario where the wild card doesn't come down to like the last week. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's going to be between 2 teams or 4, but it's going to come down to the last week between somebody.
And is it going to come down again to a team that has their division wrapped, maybe resting some guys and that giving some advantage to a team that is playing them late in the season?
You know, it happens. I don't know off the top of my head who Smash Bros. Was playing the last couple of weeks, but maybe they don't care. Or maybe they know that they have, you know,
a better shot at beating somebody.
17 days off between their last game and playoffs, so maybe they'll just go right at you. I have no idea. Maybe they care who they play out of the 4-5. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're fighting for a 1 seed or a 2 seed. Maybe they don't care if they're a 2 or 3 seed. I have no idea, to be honest with you. But if you're asking me who I think is going to make the wild card, I would say I'm going to say Legend Killers and Wake and Rake. I'm going to say the East gets 3 teams in.
East is strong. That's for sure. So you're leaving, just to be sure, the Pirates, All-American, and SOS out.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And which of those teams are you going to say? You say Legend Killers makes it in, and then Wake and Rake? Who does Wake and Rake barely beat out? Who's the first team not in the playoffs?
You know what? The last week of the season, we play SOS. I say it just comes down to us. I say SOS has to sweep, and if we split, we're in, and we end up splitting or sweeping. We get in. Get in by a game.
I will make a different prediction and say that it ends up being the Pirates and Wake and Rake. For some reason,
Public Enemies missed the playoffs.
For some reason, I'm not sold on the Legend Killers. Not seeing them at all
for some
in the
reason,
preseason.
I mean, there's reasons.
Well, yeah, here's my reasons. No preseason ball. I have no idea what Bushham's doing. The field is a more open-air field. Mm-hmm. We've known that Matt's had problems pitching in open-air fields before. Their lineup is dismal. I think the Pirates are a much more complete team, especially if Tad is able to pitch even 3/4 of how well he's pitched in the past.
Right.
But that remains to be seen. Speaking of odds, though, if you want to roll right into your over-under segment, I know this is something that you're kind of excited about. You want to save it? You want to end the show on it?
Yeah.
Well, then you tell me what you want to talk about.
I want to do Team X Factors.
All right, Team X Factors. You start it off.
All right, I want to start in the East.
Okay.
We'll start with Public Enemies. I'll say my X Factor, and then you'll say yours.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the same, then we'll move on. But then you can do Legend Killers.
Okay.
Or whatever. So Public Enemies, X Factor. I will say it is AuSSy. I think you're going to have to carry that team offensively at times. And I think you're going to have to win a bunch of games on the mound. I think between Hess and BK, they'll probably have your one spot on lock. Like, I wouldn't expect them to struggle, but I don't know how teams are going to approach you. And if they go for splits with you, you could be facing a lot of aces. And I could see like a 3-7 year out of you, which would be really bad.
So not only are you calling me the X Factor, but you think that I'm going to fail as the X Factor.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
This is Corey Zeh, who once wore a T-shirt on a similar show that said "AuSSy for Roy."
That's right.
Just to remind you all, my X Factor for the Public Enemies is Alex Kelly. Number one reason why is because I expect, like you said, Hess and BK to lock down the number one spot pitching, and I expect AuSSy to continue his legendary trail straight into the Hall of Fame, first ballot. So that's not to say I don't believe Alex is going to do good. I think Alex is the fire starter to our offense.
I wouldn't argue that.
I've said for a couple of years now I think he's the best contact hitter in the league, which can be argued with Jesse. But he's really going to set the tone for our offense at all times. So, for instance, whether or not my home runs are solo shots or 2-run jacks or 3-run jacks is going to depend on Alex. If Alex can fill in as a spot starter against a team like the Leftovers for us, so we can maybe reset our rotation or something stupid, save an arm, I think a lot of things are going to depend on AK, and I expect a big season out of him for sure.
How about his role defensively?
His role defensively, I don't think it's any more important than everybody's role defensively. I think Hess, myself, BK, and AK are all average fielders, and we all need to do a really good job fielding.
That I agree with. But I think whoever's playing outfield is the most important position because the field got bigger, so people feel like it's just harder to play defense, but we went from 43-foot bases to 45 feet. So
sounds like two more feet to throw somebody out.
So it's actually easier to play infield than it ever has been. All the room is in the outfield. So whoever your outfielder is, that would be my theory anyway. Because I mean, everyone knows you're going to be in the running for the Gold Glove at third. And Jay's going to be an amazing first baseman. So
no, I don't know that it's going to go like that at all. I think you can expect a lot of rotation in the Public Enemies defense. I think you'll see a little bit of Hess in the outfield. You'll see a little bit of me in the outfield. Yeah, that could be dangerous. But you can hate me now. But like I said, I'm more than confident in my ability. So we'll see where that goes. I expect the Kelly brothers to play a lot of first bases.
Okay.
And they do as well. So let's move on to the next team in the East.
Who's your X Factor for Legend Killers?
Legend Killers, flat out, it's going to be Matt Butchum. Reason being, I could go with another player on this team because I know Butchum's a great player, but his entire team rides on his back. He is the LeBron James of this league. So if he fails, if he slips up, his entire team falls with him. So if he doesn't have a Matt Butchum season, his team could be out of it quick.
Well, I wouldn't disagree, especially because you just said at the beginning, you said I know he's a great player, but people are of the opinion that he could have a bad season, right?
I'm not saying that, Matt. Just letting you know, bro.
Well,
that came out of Zay's mouth.
You actually just said it. If you want to rewind a little bit earlier about how you struggle from open air and all this stuff like that, but listen, my X Factor is who, right?
Patty Bailey?
No, it's Mike Gallagher. Come on. First of all,
Gallagher.
I picked him to be Roy. To me, if Gallagher's as good as I think he can be, and assuming Matt doesn't struggle or figures it out or whatever, has a good year, Mike can make this team the number one rotation. And given how poor their offense is, I think they might need to be the number one rotation in order to make the playoffs or to go deep in the playoffs. You know what I mean? And also, Mike's good offensively. For stretches in fall ball last year, he was their best hitter. So if he's an absolute beast, like maybe that takes that team to the next level. Or if he's just like a non-factor, then they're really going to struggle.
I will say this about Gallagher. I have not seen him play nearly as much as you have. So I don't really know what to expect from him. But you could very well be 100% correct on that. Moving forward, we'll go to Wake and Rake, your squad. Who's your X factor?
I am going to say Giordano. Because he was flirting with the idea of moving up to shorter mid and putting in serious innings from there.
Well, I have to stop you there because I will have you know that, Gio, I'm speaking directly to you, moving up to the mid or short mound can do some serious damage to your arm. At least that's what you said way back when. We now bring you back to our
thanks
regular
for taking this
program.
opportunity to throw shade on my teammate. Great. We need him to be an ace, and that's what he's going to be sent out there to do on opening day. But he hasn't thrown from the long mound in 10 months, 9 months, something like that. So can he be that ace? Is he different now in open air? Does his ball slow down because his speed is never top shelf? And offensively, the short porch. And he's probably going to be our leadoff hitter. He's going to have a good year offensively. And thirdly is how many games he makes. He does have to work, like a weird schedule. He should be making like 14 to 16 games, but I'm just saying there's some starts he may miss. So how many starts he gets, I just think he's really important to our success, and that's why we signed him.
I don't disagree with you there. I would disagree with maybe the fact that you might have him as the leadoff hitter. But
No, we might.
I'm disagreeing with maybe that judgment.
I understand.
I think you're right in everything that you said. My questions for Gio is, can he still be an ace? He's always been one of, if not the best number 2 pitcher. In a rotation with Hess, he was number 2.
Okay.
In a rotation with BK, he was number 2.
Right.
In a rotation with Hess and Pop, he was number 3. Can he be a legitimate ace? Can he go one-on-one with the likes of Chris Horadle and, put up serious innings? I'm not sure. I'm not saying he can't. He's always been a great pitcher, but can he match up with those top-shelf pitchers? That remains to be seen. But he's not my X factor. My X factor is actually sitting right to my right-hand side, Corey Zeh. In the preseason, I saw some pretty good progress from you at the plate.
Did you?
I did. And I will have to say that I think you're my X factor for Wake and Rake for a lot of reasons. Number one, you're going to be the leader of that defense.
Yep.
If a guy like Giordano is not necessarily getting shelled, but you got Gio and Tim. Say they're giving up, putting a lot of balls in play, you're going to be the guy out there that's making the difference as to whether or not Chris Horadle gets a single or an inside-the-park home run. And I keep bringing back the Smash Brothers like it really matters. We know they're going to wipe the floor with you guys.
But at least I held him to a single.
But at least you held Chris Horadle to a single that time. And I think at the plate, if I'm the manager of that team, I'm hitting Corey Zeh lead off. Why? He has perhaps maybe, and I don't know this for a fact, but one of the best on-base percentages in Hessfield wiffle ball history, most likely. The guy's going to rack up 150 walks. Obviously, that's past scale. But the guy gets on base. Why would you not have you lead off, get on base, and then have Giordano hit you in? It doesn't make sense to me. But hey, I'm not the manager of that team. I'm just the manager of the year. Oh, spoiler.
Well, Gio has been hitting leadoff basically for every team he's played for. And
that doesn't matter.
I feel more comfortable in the 5 spot, to be honest with you. And I just want to throw out there that...
So you're going to stack lefties?
Yeah, who cares?
Okay.
That's a myth, right?
Not necessarily.
I've heard it's a myth. Gio doesn't think it's a myth, but maybe I'll hit 4th.
If you get comfortable throwing up against the lefty, you get 2 of them in a row.
We also haven't done anything with Bennett in our lineup, so I have no idea. But I'm pretty sure
that's another person that could very easily be the X factor of this team.
Oh yeah.
He is the ex pogoer of this team.
Yeah.
But
we
can
all
he be the X factor?
X factors. We might all need to be. just want to drop a little knowledge. Pretty sure Gio, 2 out of the last 3 years, has been top 3 in ERA. Just want to throw that out.
I'm not hating, but remember, he's facing number 2 pitchers. I know that doesn't affect ERA as much.
You have his his pitcher's face right now. You don't know that
he's been a number 2 pitcher his whole career.
Yeah, I know, but he's still faced plenty of really good competition.
He did face AuSSy a couple times on the White Sox.
Skibby.
Yeah, and
yes, he faced Skibby. Yes.
in open air like this field.
That's what happened when he faced the Mariners. Right.
What happened when you faced the Mariners?
Yeah, exactly.
But let's move on. We got to keep moving on. This show's
All right, let's go to the Central. Smash Bros.
Super Smash Bros.
Who's your X Factor?
My X Factor is non-existent. No, it's Josh Longo. We know that the Horwedals and Zach Longo are going to continue to run rampant and be the next 3 Hall of Famers. And Josh has been right there with them. Question is his arm going to give out? I don't think it is. I'm just saying a lot of their success depends on his arm as far as their mid and short mound games go. And he's been really improving hitting-wise the last few years. Yeah. So I do think that he's a very important part. He's like a Jenga piece to that team. You pull it out, it might wobble a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to fall. But he's my X Factor.
I'll keep it short. I agree with you. And I would just add that, and I've talked to Josh about this, that I think a lot of teams will go for splits against him, and he's going to be facing a lot of aces. So I told him.
And he can. That's the thing, is that's dangerous. To go for the split there and match yourself up with Josh Longo. Yes, he's a middle/short mound pitcher, but he can dominate you.
It's dangerous
from the middle or short mound, and you could end up severely fucking up your rotation.
Well, I guess, but I still think it's the right play.
It depends.
I guess.
If you're SOS, do you go in there and try and split with them, or do you go in there and just bend over and take the ass whooping and leave?
No, you go in and try and split. I mean, of course, unless
I wouldn't do
unless your next series, it fucks up your rotation for your next series. Yes, of
Okay.
course. SOS.
SOS, I'm going to say Mike Curtin, like I alluded to in the beginning. Reason being, again, it's kind of like there's kind of a common theme. We know what we're going to get from certain players here. I know that was different with the Legend Killers. Mike Curtin is a guy that's intriguing because we know he can play top-level ball. He's been a number 2 pitcher on a World Series winning team. Can he come back and do anything of the sort? Can he hit the ball? That all remains to be seen. And if he can do that, like I said, I think SOS can make a really strong spot at one of those wild card spots.
I would say
Jesse Phillips.
No, yeah, right. Although I hope defensively, Jesse Phillips might be
might steal a gold glove
key.
from you.
He might, son of a bitch. He might. I would say Luke Phillips because first of all, offensively, he's been doing really well, and he did well last year, especially towards the end of the year. Man, he was playing so well. Like there was just maybe no one in the league playing better than him the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Most improved player.
Right, and he's somehow again just give him the award already. But pitching wise, I think they can only go as far as he takes them because he's going to be their ace, unless Curtin steals that role, which I guess is possible. But if he does, it's probably not good news for SOS. Luke, that combination of Luke Dakota on the mound, which I've brought up several times, I think can be a legitimate ace combo, however you want to put it. But I just think they go as far as Luke takes them. If Luke can pitch really well the whole year, then they have a really good chance. If he's not pitching well, then I just don't see them really even coming close to competing for a playoff spot. So I would say Luke.
And this is another team where you could say the entire roster is full of X factors, because bringing up Dakota Jackson, if he hits the way he's been hitting in the preseason, if he's able to improve on how he pitched last year, which was fluctuating, to say the least, then he could end up being the X factor on that team. He could end up stealing the ace role. He could end up being their best hitter. There's just a lot of different things.
I think there's a lot of X factors, potential X factors on that team, because you don't know what you're going to get from really any of those guys.
Right.
Leftovers, we don't have to spend too much time on. I guess if anything, I would say it's can they play spoiler? I would say yes if Singer puts up a bunch of big numbers because they're not going to win pitcher's duels. They're going to have to put up 10 runs a game. So.
And the thing that we talked about
and
off
he won't
camera,
be there opening day.
The thing that we talked about off camera with this team is there a guy or two that shows enough on this team to maybe become an X factor on another team?
Get picked up. Right.
Because that is allowed. We have to
they are
work.
Free agents.
They are free agents. So they can be picked up. So does a guy like Singer add to an SOS or a guy like
you're
Zielinski
auditioning for next year?
Yeah, absolutely. At the very least.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to watch the leftovers.
All right, into the West, Balco. I'll go first. And who do you think I'm going to say?
I don't know. That's another team.
Right off.
You're going to say Ron West?
You're really good. Yes, I am actually. Immediately, I was like, well, it's Jimmy. But then I thought, like you said,
we know what we're going to get from Jimmy.
Right. Like Jimmy's not an X factor. Jimmy's just the most important person on that team. Obviously, if he does really crappy, they're probably going nowhere. But I honestly do think it might be Ron because I think he's the worst hitter on that team, which it's all relative. So he's going to have to not be a dead out, which in the preseason overall he wasn't like totally impressive, but he had several clutch hits.
And he has gone off before.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's not like he's an easy out by any means, but can he keep up with those other guys in that lineup?
Right. And I mean, I think Mike's also kind of an X factor, but I think Ron may actually give them innings as well. So, can he give them a couple starts to reset the rotation or win them a game or two against the leftovers or SOS or somebody? And like I said, he can't be a dead out. He's got to produce. So, yeah, I think he actually is my X factor. You?
I would have to agree with you on there.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, just keeping it short and sweet.
You were going to go Ron West?
I was going to go Ron West for pretty much the reasons that you said. Because that team can't afford a dead out. Right. Coming from somebody that has been on teams where there's been a really solid lineup and then a noticeable weakness here and there, you can't really afford that. It's not fun. It can really put a damper on some games. I don't think Ron is going to be that guy. Right. I think the rest of that, he's going to get a lot of pitches to see, or a lot of pitches to hit. That's something worth noting is when you're in that lineup, especially say if he's a guy maybe hitting in front of George or something, he's going to get a lot of pitches to hit. Right. So Ron West for me as well.
And I'm also looking, like I said, to see what Mike does as well because he can be a really good hitter, and I think him not pitching will make his offense better, which he can just keep turning that lineup over, and like we said, got to prove that someone other than Jimmy Cole can do damage. Drunken Pirates.
Drunken Pirates, I'm going to say Jason Blonde. It could be Jason Blonde. It could be Tad O'Neill. It could be Sean Conroy. It could be Kyle Palumbo. It could be Elliot Gordon.
Shout out to Kyle Palumbo.
It could not be Steve Moore.
No chance.
Smitty, we know that he's going to give us MVP-type numbers. So I'm going to say Jason Blonde because of the reasons I mentioned before of how the Pirates could steal the show this year. If Blonde can put up similar numbers he has on the mound in the past, this field is going to help him out a lot. And like you said, switch hitting, short porch, Jason Blonde can produce a lot of damage. In a league full of terribly, terribly unmechanical swings, Jason Blonde has a swing like candy.
He does.
That's sweet if you didn't get it.
How he does on the mound probably depends on my X factor, which would be Tad. Because I think in an ideal world, Blonde would not pitch, or he'd get like one start. But how many starts can Tad give them? Because it's kind of what I said with Luke. I think they only go as far as Tad can bring them. Now, Blonde and Conroy can produce, and their offense potentially is pretty good. But Tad just has to be that ace. I mean, you have to. Tad is that guy. He's Butchum before Butchum, where like if all else fails, we have Tad. Can he still be that guy, or does he come out? Because you remember his only. I mean, he did start against the Rockies last year and beat them, kind of screwed them over. But his opening day against the White Sox for 5 innings, he nailed them down for 0 runs, and then in the 6th they scored 9 because he just didn't have that stamina. Is that what we're going to see? is that a sign of something that we're going to see, or is he going to come out and, like you said, he's just going to be lights out? Because if he is, then it's a whole new ball game, and him preparing himself for nationals and stuff like that, it's a really tricky situation.
Here's something I want to propose to you about Tad O'Neil. Say you have Jason Blonde and you have Sean Conroy. Mm-hmm. Two reputable pitchers, not the best in the league, but reputable pitchers. Say you have a guy like Sean Conroy going up against a team like All-American Wiffle. It's a close game. 4 innings go by. You got your mid-mound requirement out of the way. Mm-hmm. Here comes Tad O'Neil for 2 innings to blow down the barn doors, and it's over. Can Tad O'Neil fill that role and be a closer for the entire season?
I hate that idea.
I'm not saying it's the best idea, but should Tad not have the stamina like you mentioned? Could they throw him at the back end of every single game?
Yeah, I guess it's definitely an option. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it like that, but yeah.
Well, you're not quite the strategist that I am.
It's very true. I never think about anything to do with this league.
Yeah.
Last but not least, in the West, All-American. Do you have an X factor for them?
I'm not sure necessarily yet. There's just so many moving parts with that team. Yeah, it very much is the whole team. There are a lot of guys that stand out to me. I'm going to go ahead and say Bob Loftus, though. Reason being is I know what he's capable of. He can be a really great player. The problem is I think he has a tendency to take himself out of games once in a while. Especially last year, fall ball, when he was pitching when they needed the middle or short mound requirements, and he would go out there. He was obviously frustrated by the speed requirements. Now, he might not pitch at all,
right,
and that could be completely different. But I still think that he could be a really big X factor for this team. He can be a leader for this team for sure.
Excuse me.
Am I boring you?
No, it's just yes. I'm gonna go with Artem. It's kind of boring, but obviously he's gonna be their ace. And what I was saying with Tad and Luke is he's gonna take them pretty much as far as they can go. Part of what we opened with was how strategic they're going to be and who exactly he's pitching against. Because at the end of the day, he's going to have to beat some other aces. Obviously, it's not one-on-one. But I think even beyond his pitching, his leadership and his attitude and offensively, for them in fall ball, he had their 2 biggest swings. He probably had the 2 biggest swings of fall ball. But
besides maybe Jimmy's.
Yeah, well, maybe. No one remembers that.
You're right, see? It happened just like that.
But offensively, I think, power-wise, I think he's their best home run hitter. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. Some of the guys that they've added, I don't really know.
Mm-hmm. Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah, Dirk Nowitzki. But in that lineup, he's going to be a presence, and he's going to have to come up with clutch hits again. And I mean, it's kind of a boring answer, but to me, he's just their X factor. I mean, I know he's going to have somewhere between a good and great year, but he may need to be great.
My real X factor, though, of this team, I'm sorry I didn't bring this up, is Artem's dog, Bruce Wayne. Can he transform himself into the Bat Vigilante, Batman, and save the day for this team? Otherwise, I'm not sure.
He is an MVP candidate at Perfect Pups.
Perfect Pups Daycare, Pet Care.
I forgot how they spell it.
And,
damn it. I knew that place.
I wonder if there's somebody there that works there named Alfred.
Perfect.
Master Wine.
Okay, so that concludes the Team X Factors.
Why don't we skip our candidates? Let's go to over and under. We're kind of running late. We're excited. We've gotten overexcited.
All right, over under. You want to go top to bottom or bottom to top? Or division to division?
Let's just go top down.
Okay. Smash Bros. Vegas has them at 15.5. This is all you, by the way. I'm not guessing, so you go ahead.
Over under on 15.5.
See, some of that has to do with they wrapped up the division.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot that goes into it.
If their mission is to win as many games as
possible. How many games
probably.
Is there again? Off
20.
The top? 20 games. 15.5. I'm going to take the over.
Okay. Balco is at 14.5.
I'll take the under.
Yeah, wow, what a surprise. Here comes another surprise. PE, 13.5.
I'm going to take the under.
Okay, that was a surprise. Legend Killers at 11.5.
I'm going to take the under.
The under. So you have over, under. Here comes another under. Wake and Rake, 10.5. It's a good line.
It is a good line. It is a good line.
It's the only line it could be, because we're right there in the middle. It could go either way.
I'm going to say... I'm going to take the under on that still, unfortunately. And don't quote me on this on the mathematics and stuff.
Well, see, that's the thing is that you should have to go like 5 and 4.
I can't. I'm just going solely based on each team and their potential, not in the grand scheme of things.
Even though literally,
I know it all depends. It's all relative.
Right?
Yes, okay. right.
All right.
I want to be right on as many as you know what I mean. Like I know I'm not going to get them all right, so I might as well be right on some and wrong on others. You know, does that make any sense or not?
No. What's in that Gatorade? Drunken Pirates, 9.5.
I'm going to take the over on the Drunken Pirates.
Ooh, over on the Drunken Pirates.
I'm really high on the Drunken Pirates.
All right, let that sit out there. All right, All-American Wiffle, 7.5.
This is a tough one.
Ooh, Artem didn't want to hear that.
I'm going to take the under on everybody but 2 teams. I'm going to take the over on All-American.
What if it was 8.5? What would you take?
I would stay put. No, I would take the under if it was 8.5.
All right, you hear that, Artem? Get pumped. You probably hear that. You probably won't see this till the morning. So listen to this on the way up.
Artem, you guys. I wanted to say this for a while now. Artem, you guys have a better shot, or I'm sorry, Jimmy Cole has a better shot of regrowing his hair than you guys have at winning a championship in Hess Field Spring League.
That's cold. SOS. Originally, Vegas put them at 4.5, up to 6.5 after the preseason.
That's a 6. It looks like a 5.
Well, you can thank Vegas. It's a 6.
Okay.
Because 5.5, I feel like you're definitely taking it over because they have 4 games against the leftovers. Mm-hmm. So you probably could put them down.
Another tough one. I mean, I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take the over. Yeah, I'm going to take the over.
And if they do go over, I mean, that means pretty much that they are in contention for a playoff spot.
In which I had them. So.
And leftovers at 1.5.
I'll take the over on that as well. Like I'm saying, I think there's going to be a lot of parity. That's why you see me taking the under on a lot of the top teams.
There's going to be a lot of pitching.
And the over on.
You never know who's going to show up for that team. That's the thing.
Right.
That whole team's actually.
I could see the leftovers.
Chris Morse could be here. They could end up with a kid that's like just amazing, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, like what if Morse brings like a couple guys from Hudson Valley,
or just
and they run a train on Wake and Rake. We know that's possible.
It's definitely not possible. You're right. All right. One last thing. With this opening week, give me everybody's record after this opening week.
Oh, man, this is math required. Okay, so I'm gonna take.
I'm
gonna take Public Enemies, 2-0.
Okay.
I'm gonna take. I'll take 1-3 for All American.
Okay.
I'll take 1-1 for Wake and Rake.
Yep.
I'll take 2-0 for Smash Bros. And 0-2 for Balco. I know
SOS and leftovers.
That's a tough one. I'm saying Balco and Smash Bros. Was a tough one. SOS I'm gonna give 2-0 and 0-2 to the leftovers.
And perhaps the most interesting for last, Drunken Pirates and Legend Killers.
I'm gonna say 1-1 for each of them.
Okay, interesting. All right. Is that it?
I think that's it.
Okay.
We got to thank our sponsors, of course, Upstate Sounds. If you need a DJ, CJ.
And I just want to say, even if you guys aren't playing tomorrow, come check out the field, come check out the games, come get some food.
And if you're watching this on Saturday, come today.
Yes.
Because we know it's late on the East Coast.
Yes, you're right.
Hess is already snuggled up in bed.
Come Saturday, come Sunday, come Monday. I don't care.
And,
on behalf of Hess and Janine, come to their house. I don't care. You can come any day.
There will be plenty of fruit salad and Capri Sun for all to enjoy.
There will.
And Jasper will be wearing a bow tie.
BYOG. Bring your own guts.
Bring your own guts?
Shout out to Dabo Sweeney for that, yes. You don't know who that is, do you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
Clemson.
Right. Right.
Why would I not know that?
I don't know, because he
Come
doesn't
on,
roll.
dude. Come on, dude. You know better than that.
All right.
For Corey Zeh, I am Aussie. This has been the first episode, Season 3 Pitch Please podcast. It's
See
a
you in a
Hessfield.
few weeks.
See you in a couple weeks for
All right.
sure. We're going to do this again. We're going to try and keep up with it as much as possible. Again, this is a Hessfield Wiffle Ball podcast. If you don't mind, do us a favor. Hit the like button underneath here and share this with your friends throughout the Wiffle Ball community. And
That's me.
that is Corey Zeh. This is a more handsome co-host.
Look at the way you're looking at me, like, damn. That kid's awesome.
All right, we got to go home here, kids. Thanks again to Janine and Chris for letting us use their basement here today. And we'll be seeing you guys tomorrow at opening day, Hessfield on the Hollow. Stay
New
tuned.
era begins.
Stay tuned to the Hessfield Wiffle Ball Facebook page for more information on how you can watch the games tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye-bye.